Welcome to Victorious Living. Are you ready to unlock your full potential and experience the abundant life God has planned for you? We all face challenges, but on Victorious Living, we will equip you with practical tools and inspiring stories to help you live a life of victory. Let's prepare ourselves to learn something new today. Before we jump in, let's spread the victory. Share this video with someone who needs a fresh perspective. You were created for greatness. Let's dive in and discover how to live a life of victory.
Hello friends, welcome to Victorious Living. You're not watching us by chance. Within this couple of minutes, your life is going to change forever because I believe one word from heaven can change your life. You know, you are so precious that Jesus died for you, and He died so that we can have eternal life, of course, but also He wants you to live on this earth very, very victorious. That is why we designed this program for you. And I have an amazing guest today, and your life is going to change listening to him. He has a big introduction, but I would request him to talk about himself. And without wasting any more time, I want to welcome you, Pastor David. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Boy, what a privilege and an honor to be here with you in the studio today.
Thank you so much. And I would request you to introduce yourself and how you got saved. And we would like to know your journey.
Happy to do that. And thank you for the privilege and honor of doing so. So I'm David Dendy, and I grew up in the life of the church right from the get-go. I was baptized as an infant in the Presbyterian tradition, and baptized by the hand of my grandfather, who was a Presbyterian minister as well. So the Dendy family goes way, way back all the way to Scotland, where the Presbyterian Church was founded in Scotland by a guy named John Knox.
Wow.
And so the Dendy name goes back to John Knox.
Wow.
My son is named Joshua Knox Dendy. And so I don't have any other choice but to be Presbyterian. You know, I've tried to do other things, but God says, no, Presbyterian for you.
Right.
So I grew up in the life of the church, had wonderful Sunday school teachers, pastors, mentors, leaders, and then somewhere around probably 7th grade or so, I was very involved in a youth group at our church, and we went to a camp, a weekend camp, and I think it was probably on maybe Saturday night. There was an opportunity for anyone who would like to come forward and give their life to Jesus. I'm in, count me in. And so I came forward and accepted Christ. And it really was just a culmination of all those years being surrounded by wonderful, godly people, showing me the way and leading me to that decision. So for me, there wasn't an immediate life change. It wasn't like I was going in this wrong direction and all of a sudden made a U-turn. It was just a continual on the same path that God had led me right from the get-go. And so kind of sometimes I equate, some people have the Paul experience, like, God intervenes and knocks you off your high horse, and
Yes.
And then your eyes are like, wow, you're blinded, but yet your eyes are open to a whole new world. And but that was not my experience. Mm-hmm. Mine's more like Timothy in the Bible. His mom, his grandmother, were part of the church, and they raised him up in the life of the church. He came alongside Paul, and he just was part of that Christian journey all the way through. So that's kind of my journey. And then when I was in college, I was a religion major, mainly because I loved the subject. Mm-hmm. I looked at other different majors, but I love religion. I love Christianity. I love studying about it and theology and history, church history and all that. So I'm like, I'll be a religion major. I thought I would become an attorney. Mm-hmm. And then I took a class called something on the constitutional principles or something like that. The book was this thick. And I thought, I'm not sure I want to do that. And so by my senior year, just felt like the Lord was saying, how about ministry? Mm-hmm. And a young pastor of a church I was going to at that time, said, I think you'd be a great pastor. Mm-hmm. You've grown up in the church, you love the church, so how about just, and so my senior year, I applied to seminary in Richmond, Virginia, at Union Seminary there, and got in, and there began my pastoral journey. It's a 3-year program, a Masters of Divinity program. So I'm a Master of Divinity. So, but and then I received a call to be an associate pastor at Reed Memorial Presbyterian Church in Augusta, Georgia. So, and that's how the journey began.
Wow. What caught my attention, because I am in fashion industry, because as I was sharing with you behind the scene that I got threatened by my people.
Right.
They said you're converting people. So I became a life coach, and, all that journey took me to fashion industry, movie industry. So what caught my attention is I saw your video. My neighbor introduced me to you, to your church. And
Right.
I saw you being a stand-up comedian. So how that happened?
How did that? Well, I've always been fascinated with comedy. I grew up watching a late night show with Johnny Carson. I don't know if you've heard of Johnny Carson, but one of those late night hosts, and he'd always get up and give a little monologue that was funny. And from then I've always been, I love to laugh. Who doesn't like to laugh? And so I found there was, especially when I was growing up in the church, I found great laughter in our youth group, in our youth leaders. And I thought, this laughter is designed by God. God laughs at a lot of things, I believe, allows us to laugh at a lot of things. And so one day, about 5 years ago, 4 people came out of church, and they all said the same thing: you ought to try stand-up comedy. And I was like, oh, ha, 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 And then I posted something funny on Instagram or something, and this guy named Matt Kazam liked it. And I was like, who's Matt Kazam? And so I looked him up, and he's a stand-up comedian, and used to be a headliner down on the Strip. And he was offering a course on how to do stand-up comedy. And to graduate, you had to perform at Caroline's Comedy Club in Times Square in New York City. And I said, I'm in. And so that's kind of how that journey started. And my opening line is, I'm from Las Vegas, and people clap, yay. And I say, and I'm a pastor. And no one claps. The room just gets deadly silent. And I say, people ask me all the time, how can you be a pastor in Sin City? And job security. Job security right here,
Yeah.
So, but it's been a lot of fun to do that, do some shows at churches and at some comedy clubs, and a great way to witness.
Yes.
Especially in a comedy club where no one's going there for church, no one's expecting to hear from a pastor.
Yes.
And it's been a great ministry in the sense of you get out there, you introduce yourself as a pastor, and people are like, oh boy, we didn't sign up for this. And then by the end, they're laughing, and they come up to me afterwards and say, I never knew a pastor could be funny, which saddens me. That what have we done in our churches where people don't feel free to laugh, don't find humor in life, And so that's part of our mantra at Mountain View Presbyterian Church, is to laugh often and fear not.
Yes.
We say that every Sunday. And we laugh a lot in church, as well as obviously dive into the scriptures and whatnot. But then the other thing people say to me is, thank you for being clean. The humor's clean. There's no cussing. There's no inappropriate.
So it's possible to be humorous and at the same time be clean.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. And that's the kind of humor I love the best.
Wonderful, Pastor. That was my... thank God for that video. Thank God for that video that caught my attention. Then I visited your church, and it was amazing. Yeah. And something happened in one of the sermon that I was present.
Right.
You were wearing this chain. Please tell the audience about it.
This chain, it's heavy. Do you want to feel how heavy that is?
Yes, it is.
It's heavy.
Very heavy.
Yeah, heavy. And so for that particular sermon, all worship long, I was wearing this chain. Yes. I mean, it weighs you down.
Tell us about it.
And we were talking about forgiveness and how we've all been hurt. We've all had people say things to us, mean things or hurtful things, or have done hurtful things to us. And And one of the hallmarks of Christianity is to forgive.
Yes.
You know, easy to say, difficult to do. And what happens when we hold on to unforgiveness, this right here,
Yeah.
it just weighs you down. Just weighs you down. And one of my favorite quotes about forgiveness is, forgiveness is the key to set the prisoner free, only to discover the prisoner was me.
Wonderful.
Because I've noticed over the years, I'm sure you have too, when I'm unforgiving and I'm holding on to the hurt, it just weighs me down.
Yes.
It just, I mean, and it takes a lot of energy. It's tense, you know, it's restrictive, constrictive, and that's where God showed us the greatest gift of all through Jesus Christ on the cross, you know, to bear the sin. And I think that's what's so hard about forgiveness, is that when we're hurt, or when we're, you know, if I was to break this screen right here, I don't know how much that screen cost, a couple $1,000. You would say, "Oh, David, we forgive you." Okay, but it's still going to cost you $2,000. You still have to bear the cost, right? And so when someone soils my reputation, says hurtful things, and I'm like, okay, I forgive you. I still have to bear the cost. I have to, I mean, it's, and part of that bearing that cost is also turning it over and forgiving.
Yeah.
And letting
Let
it
it
go.
go.
And then, a little bit lighter, you know, a little bit more skip in my step. And I think as I've talked with people, I'm sure as you have as well as a pastor, anytime I preach on forgiveness, more pushback on that subject than any other subject. Because at the door, I get what I call the but whats. But what about this, Pastor? And but what about that, you know? And the answer is always the same. We got to forgive.
Yes.
Is it easy? No. It's how hard was it? It took Jesus to die on the cross. God's only son to die. That's how hard it was.
Yes.
I mean, if it was easy, then there could have been another way. But to die, to take on, he's perfect. He takes on the sin of the world. He who knew no sin was made to be sin so that we could experience new life and forgiveness. And so that's been given to us. Why would we not give that to someone else? Well,
that is a wonderful thing that you share, that it actually cost God so much. It costed him so much.
His only son.
Like, that means forgiveness is not easy.
Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you were blessed by this message. Let's use this encouragement to spread hope and light, not only in our own lives, but also in our families and communities. If this message resonated with you, leave a comment and let us know how God is working in your lives. Stay victorious and be blessed.